Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Innovation Tech Talks. I'm your host, Corey Noles. Today, we're going to talk about a hot button topic that seems to always be getting a little hotter: cybersecurity. Our guest today is Dr. Shaun McAlmont, President and CEO of NINJIO, a cybersecurity awareness training firm. Dr. McAlmont, how are you today, sir?
Corey, I am fine, and thanks for having me today.
Well, thank you. We're excited to have you on. It's a subject frankly, we don't talk about enough, and it's such an intriguing field. There's always something happening. It seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the times are changing, and this is unfortunately becoming more of a reality for companies and individuals everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I guess to get us rolling, can you tell us a little bit about NINJIO and what you guys do over there?
You know, it's a great company that really evolved out of the need to train individuals to change their behavior around these cyber risks, and in doing so, actually help a company or an organization reduce their risk profile. You know,
Nice.
85% of these breaches, 85% of them are still caused by an end user clicking a bad link. And so, you know, we're really trying to focus on the end user. But NINJIO started in 2015 by the founder, Zach Schuler, on the heels of actually running a technology managed services business. And in that experience, I think showed him this need for an end user solution. And
Wow.
so, Corey, you know, the original concept was based on that conflict between the growing disdain for lengthy corporate training, you know, that annual corporate training you've got to do
Oh yeah.
for sexual harassment and cybersecurity. People have found a way to game it. You know, you can figure out, okay, what do I need to pass that? How do I just like keep my desktop open on work while I'm clicking through this training? And by the way, I think a lot of people get through it. The companies check it off as done, but the behavior hasn't changed. So, you know,
Yeah.
Zach founded the company based on that conflict between that disdain for corporate training and then finding a way to more engage employees and motivate them to change their behavior for the benefit of themselves and the company. And so, with that said, they really came up with a solution that was based on, you know, drama and engagement, shortened time on the training, using a different medium, which is animation, kind of hits you from a different perspective. The episodes are monthly and they're brief, and the assessments are very straightforward and limited based on that brief content you had. So none of it's overwhelming, none of it's scary. You didn't have to have a doctorate to feel
Yeah.
that you can get through the training, and we find that people engage in it and they actually learn something from the approach.
Well, that's great. And it's interesting. So the way this works then is your teams work with companies that have large staffs and are looking to train lots of people. I understand the
Exactly. And
videos are pretty
yeah.
cool too.
Yeah, no, the videos are fantastic. And you know, so two answers to your question. Yes, we work with companies large and small. So I think that, you know, if Zach, the founder, was here today, he'd tell you one of the companies he started with was his dentist's office. You know, 7 employees that needed to just not click bad links and introduce risk into their data and information, all the way up to our largest client that has about 700,000 employees.
Wow.
And so, you know, it really ranges and spans the gamut. Secondly, the training is based on real events. So even though they're sort of drama based, they get your interest and they keep you engaged. They're all based on a real cyber breach or cyber issue that happened recently, and we'll put some drama around it to teach the point. And so one of the pieces of adult learning that we found that motivates the adult, especially in the workplace, is make it a case study or make it something that's real that I can actually learn from and apply down the road. And so that's a part of our training as well.
That's interesting. It's you're right though. Corporate training is so horribly dull in general. Uh, as a rule, it's something they want you to do while you've already got them on your back about getting something else done, and
Right.
it's there's always this hassle. So I like the idea that they're short and punchy. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a good step.
Good.
Um, so what's your background before you came to NINJIO?
Well, it's interesting. I have a technical background, but it's through technical education. Like I'm not a tech guy. I'm not a coder, and not a cybersecurity professional per se. But what my expertise is in adult training
Nice.
and finding ways to make sure adults learn. Like we all, like I said before, if there's a case study and you can make it experiential and I can actually apply it tomorrow and maybe even benefit in my career from it, I'm all in.
Right.
But if you're going to make it like I've got to get another bachelor's degree,
Yeah.
and you're bringing up like my ghosts from the past learning, I'm not going to like it.
Yeah. I'm
And
with
so
you,
my
man.
yeah, my background's about 25 years in ed tech, adult learning, non-traditional learning, a number of companies. But my early start was at Stanford University and Brigham Young University in student services. So
Oh wow.
understanding how students learn and how to support them. And then from there moved into ed tech and corporate training.
Oh wow. That's interesting though. It's somewhere I imagine you never thought you might wind up then.
Yeah, yeah, it's Corey. I mean, it's a great point. But the one thing I'm learning is training, education, lifelong learning. It exists and it's important. And I think that a large swath of our population could benefit from it. And so it's not just around cybersecurity, which is the hot issue today for companies,
Yeah.
but there are so many ways I think we could all upskill ourselves in a really fast moving technology driven workplace. And look at your show. I mean, you're doing a podcast. I'm looking at you on screen.
Yeah.
You're going to record this and edit it like with software that's been developed for it. Man, 15 to 20 years ago, I think it would have been a tougher
Yeah.
production experience.
I always joke about video calls. I said one day I just realized we've had that for like a decade now. Where was the moment that I
Yeah,
remember in the 90s thinking one of these days we'll be looking at people when we're talking to them. And then just one
exactly.
day it came and I never noticed. Just it was just there.
Exactly. It's here. But that's how it sneaks up on us. And but think about this: if you're not ready, or you haven't been upskilling yourself to even understand how some of the technology works, you're kind of on the outside looking
Yeah.
in.
And it doesn't take long to find yourself on the outside. You really
Yes,
do need to always be learning, like they say, especially in this,
exactly.
this technological environment with new ideas, new changes. I mean, Ford's getting away from dealerships, and going to sell cars themselves, things like that. I'd have
I'm
never
telling you.
dreamed that.
Oh, it's moving fast, and the most interesting thing in terms of cybersecurity awareness and training is the fact that the hackers or the bad actors, they are well ahead, Corey.
Oh yeah.
They've figured out ways to get into our technology, into our heads. There's a type of breach, a type of phishing called spear phishing,
Uh-huh.
where they will figure out what's familiar to you and hit you with those things. It's like, oh, my boss is asking me to wire some money, or there's an issue at home and I've got to click this link to find out what it is. Like they really prey on our behavior and our fears.
Wow. And it's amazing that's the same stuff they've been doing for 30 years now too. In some ways it just keeps getting a little
Yes.
bit better. The nature of email security, for example, we got at our office, we've always got stuff coming in. And
Yeah.
the other day we had one that's like, hey, this is from accounting. But we need you to update your W-4 for us or something, and just takes a minute. Just click in, log in with your company password, do this. And no.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, we as people have dealt with this for 30 years and still fall for it to this day.
We're still falling for it. And that's why we figured, look, we are going to like section off the training based on a specific type of risky behavior, and we're going to give it to you in bite-sized pieces monthly, and then back it up with some follow-up and make it really easy for you to learn it, but you're going to learn it over behavior by the repetitive nature of the training.
Yeah.
And then we have to keep it relevant. One thing our
Yeah.
team, if I say to our team, hey, let's get 5 or 6 of these going in advance, they'll say, well, we got to slow down, Shaun, because we want them to be as real time to what's happening out in the industry as possible. So we keep those episodes very relevant to the most recent breaches.
Oh,
It's
wow.
very, very important.
That is important. That is important. And there's always something new. Uh, it seems like I'm always seeing different things happening. I mean, we just looking at our corporate website as an example. So many brute force attempts
Oh
every
yeah,
day from all over the world. Uh, it's just nonstop. Uh,
it's nonstop, Corey. And here's a good one. During COVID, we were all clicking or taking pictures of QR codes for menus and lists of things, and it's a new attack vector where
yeah.
there's a malicious QR code that will pull up a link. You click that link, and all of a sudden, someone's in your system.
Oh, and anybody that wants to could just stick a link right on a menu, little
Yep,
stickers. Oh my gosh. I
it's amazing.
never thought of that in a million years, but you're right. That's something we just don't think about. And there's not much there to tell you this could be bad.
Right,
You
right,
know, you assume it's right here. Okay, it is what it says it is, and you go. Uh,
exactly.
wow. I had never considered that. Well, hey, let's take just a quick minute here for a little break from our sponsors at OMRON Healthcare.
Today's episode of Innovation Tech Talks is brought to you by OMRON. OMRON is a world leader in technology designed to solve social issues, improve lives, and build a better tomorrow. They serve a range of industries which utilize their technologies to innovate and grow factory automation, healthcare, mobility, and energy management. In the industrial automation business, OMRON technology demonstrates the power of machines to unleash human potential, pursuing the ideal in automation, in which people and machines are working together in harmony. OMRON provides sensing, control, safety, vision, motion, and robotics technologies for the automotive, food and beverage packaging, semiconductor, electronics, life sciences, and infrastructure industries. For over 80 years, OMRON has helped industrial businesses maximize potential by solving problems with creativity. Learn more, go to automation.omron.com.
So, what do you see today as the biggest challenge in the world of cybersecurity?
I still feel that it is the heightened level of activity, the targeted nature of some of the threat vectors we're seeing, and who they're going after. Like they know now that if they go after a healthcare organization, a higher education, you're going to get t- millions of records,
Mm-hmm.
and those records allow you to hold a company hostage.
Yeah,
If they can get into your system, Corey, and encrypt your data so you don't have access to it, they know that you will pay something to get that data back. And
absolutely.
and that's what's plaguing many industries today.
Wow. And that's so widespread. You know, you think insurance agencies, credit card companies, all of those types of businesses like higher education, uh, hospitals, clinics, they have your most sensitive stuff. You know, they have your full social security number and address. I mean, you could build a human off what they have.
That's exactly right. So they're preying on those types of companies, and I think a lot of companies are really fixing the hardware side of it. As you said before, if you can keep them out with your technology, that's great. But you know what? You're going to keep 99% of it out.
Yeah,
The 1% that gets in, and the one employee that clicks the bad link, all of your infrastructure was just
Yeah.
threatened by the weak link.
Yeah.
And so at some point you have to do both. You have to have the technology that protects you, and your employees have to have the right awareness through training and behavior, so they're not jumping on those links.
Yeah. Well, and almost all of those, specifically emails at least, there's almost always a half a dozen red flags right there in front of you. You know,
Yes.
my first thing I do is I click on the address because so I can see the full email address, and 9 times out of 10, it's from Bob Ross at email.com or something.
Right.
It's not anything to do with our company,
Well,
and
that's exactly right. But look at that. I mean, your behavior has changed. Um, maybe based on some experience you've had, but you've learned somehow that that's the first thing to do is look at the address.
yeah,
And most people know that today, but I'm telling you, there's still a large percentage that will, just because of the stress they're under and the pace of the day, they're going to open that up. Oh, look, I'm supposed to wire something,
and they
and
just
this is
do it.
to whom yeah, it's old behavior that hasn't necessarily changed yet, and that's what I think is the other part of the risk.
It is. It's easy, especially if you're in a hurry. And
Yes,
email time is always hurry time because it can suck your whole day away if you're not careful.
it
Uh,
really is.
but you're right. I think most people today know to be suspicious. But I mean, it's all a numbers game. If they send out 1 million emails and they get 2,100 people, that's a lot. you know.
Look, I got to tell you, Corey. I mean, I've lived through, as a leader of a company, and one of a leadership team, two different breaches and experiences where somebody got the note and it said from a higher up in the company, "I need you to do this thing," and they did it, and it put the company at risk, and our data was locked out. And
Oh,
you never want to have to wind all the way back to the person who did it, but that's what you do these days. You figure out
yeah,
where the breach was and why it happened. But living through those, when all you can't email, and all of your contacts are gone and your information's out on the dark web, I mean, it's a scary moment. And then, Corey, as a company that has customers, you're going to have to let all of your millions of customers know that you open them up to risk as well. So it's not just who's in your building.
yeah,
These things can be spread far and wide. And that's why we say, look, get your technology right, change your employee behavior, and you've got a
yeah.
better chance of avoiding the risk.
And they always know exactly whose fault it was.
Who did it? And
That to me is the
Corey,
biggest deterrent. I don't want to be that guy.
nobody
Uh,
wants to be like employee zero, the one who clicked the link. But now, it's threatening jobs.
yeah,
Your chief information person. Why didn't you have this thing set up the right way, and your job could be at risk? And so
yeah,
the ramifications are far and wide.
yeah. That's wild. Well, another new direction here that I wanted to ask about. There's so many new technologies all the time, which creates avenues of new ways in, and probably excites the hacking community for something new to try to break.
Yeah.
Things like the metaverse, for example.
Oh yeah.
Is that creating any new unique challenges that haven't been before?
Oh, Corey, it's so wide open. We're so dependent on technology, and we live in it now.
Hmm.
All of my children are digital natives. Like
Yeah,
they've come up with this stuff. For me, as an older guy, I've had to go through phases of from the rock tablet all the way to where we are
yeah,
today. So I'm a little more aware of the various levels of evolution here. But we're living in that metaverse today, and I think it opens up risk. Think about this as well. At home, so at my house, our sprinkler system is tied to the Wi-Fi. Our refrigerator's on the Wi-Fi. Our pool and heater. Um, we've got Xbox going, and our youngest son is communicating around the world through games. There's stuff coming in and going out of my house through data nonstop.
Yeah.
And so if that's happening just in my house, you could imagine that companies with higher levels of technology are just opened up, just
Oh,
wide open. And so the protections need to be broad, but also very specific to those entry points. And so, yeah, I think the metaverse is a great example of a new um, sort of portal for information in and out that's broad,
yeah.
that needs to be protected as well.
Yeah. And as with anything new, just like they're figuring out how to break it, you're still figuring out how to protect it at the same time, you know.
At the same time, and that's why I think you've got so many former hackers that are hired now to help companies stay a little ahead of that community,
Yeah.
to stay safe.
Oh, some of those hackers from the 90s are millionaires today. Have just
Exactly.
absolutely turned it into these massive genius careers working for Norton Antivirus and software like that over the years. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because it's something I never thought of back when all that was going on. Because I remember when that was all kind of new still, like an 80s, I mean, a 90s thing at least. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, I think we all have to sort of keep our eyes open in all of this, because those portals for this type of breach just continue to open. As I mentioned, there's so many different ties now to systems and Wi-Fi, and how you link into your company's email and your files from home. So remote learning for that period of time really created a huge metaverse of folks using video based software and virtual access to their company's networks. And now that remote working circumstance hasn't gone away.
yeah.
So we're open. Your
Yeah.
concept of the metaverse, we're in it
Yeah. This isn't
in
an
so many
office
different ways.
network anymore. This is everybody's apartment building network and their living room
Yes,
network. Uh,
exactly.
well, and the same could be said for another interesting frontier is the world of cryptocurrency, where for so long everybody was like, it's just not hackable. It is what it is. It's never going to be.
Right.
And now maybe it is over this
It's
last year.
yeah, everything will be
Yeah.
at some point, but we're also getting smarter, as a global community. It's like, it doesn't take many of these, and paying out some big ransomware uh,
Yeah.
costs that we learn sometimes the hard way. And so it's top of mind. Somebody was asking me the other day, look, there's economic pressure right now. We're sort of pre-recessionary. Interest rates are going up. Do you think companies are going to move away from this type of training? And I'd say they're not. They might have to reposition some things, but the
Yeah.
risk you have when you take your eye off this ball is the big ransomware to get your data back. And
Yeah.
and by the way, the protection against that starts at that user level. Do not let them in your system by clicking the bad link, so you won't have to pay the ransomware a year later.
Yeah. I guess your people are your weakest link when it comes to this stuff. Is certainly the easiest way in. Well,
Yes, yes.
uh, Dr. McAlmont, what sets NINJIO's system apart from, say, other companies in the cybersecurity field that are trying similar things?
Well, we the fact that when Zach created the company, he launched it with himself as the founder, a Hollywood writer, a fellow named Bill Haynes, who wrote for some pretty good shows on TV,
Oh, nice.
including Hawaii Five O,
Ah,
and an animator. And they sat down together and they said, look, what are the five or six most recent hacks or major circumstances around? And they built these episodes based on those. And they got them out and started selling those right away. And now about, oh my gosh, 2,000 customers later, the rest is history. And but it doesn't stop there. I mean, what we're really doing now is trying to differentiate ourselves even further. The content is industry leading. So Gartner, their customer reviews basically show that people love the content, the
Yeah.
length, that micro learning, and the pacing of the episodes. What we're doing next now is creating a platform that allows the content to sit on it, that gives us, some machine learning based on the data and the actions we're seeing,
Yeah.
and reporting back to the company to say, not that, you know, employee number 6 is clicking links all day, but your culture isn't developing the way you need in terms of how people are dealing with these risk tests that we're throwing at them, or you're doing extremely well. And then thirdly, for the individual that is clicking on the bad links through the tests, we can actually send the right type of content to that employee
Oh
with
wow.
the platform we're building. So it's evolving the training so that it's now targeted to the types of behavior an employee is showing.
Oh wow. Well, I like the idea you're talking about micro learning. That's a neat phrase because in the publishing industry, because we have a family of magazines and a number of news sites as well, we see that same thing. We see people wanting news in nugget form. They want,
Yes.
I mean, we have our most popular thing we do on this site is our top 5 things to know. And
Yep.
it's here's a headline and a paragraph, a headline and a paragraph. And on your top 5 stories, and here's a 3-minute video of something cool that might pertain. We do those for regular news. We do it for crypto. And same with newsletters. Still another
Yeah.
kind of nugget size. Just give me the meat and potatoes. And I think people are enough used to doing that now that I could see where that could be really beneficial in training.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Hey, Corey, if you think about it this way, as the younger generation comes into the workplace, remember it's like a TikTok generation, and so I think that if you look at traditional corporate training, as we talked about earlier, it's an hour or 2 hours annually,
yeah,
and it's such a burden. So we've broken it down into 4-minute episodes, one per month, but we
that's
still
genius.
get requests for a shorter version. So we now have a nano version that's a minute and a half, but that's, you see where it's going.
Yeah.
And I think that the more that new generation comes in and starts taking over in the workplace, they're going to want like lengths that hit them in the right place
Yeah.
for their learning style. Um, and so we're going to have a variety of
Wow.
lengths over
They
time.
want the bullet points.
They
That's
want the bullet points. That's
give me the
right.
4 hot spots and get out of my TV.
You're
Uh,
right.
it's
Right.
very much how it is. It's made news very challenging because it's really easy to not have the necessary context when you're serving it up as an acorn instead of a watermelon. There's this whole,
Yes.
it's just tricky to kind of navigate that world. But
It is. It really is. And I think that, we found very quickly that, yeah, it's not one 4-minute episode that changes behavior. It's the episode. And then in the same month, we give the customer like a follow up. It's an image from the video they saw and some reminder points about that attack vector that we taught them about this month. And then we
oh,
do
that's
that
neat.
monthly, and so that's the contract. So we have about 7 seasons of episodes in our library, and so you'll get the most recent, but you can also go back and look at anything that we've done over the last
Yeah.
few years. And so part of it is the micro learning and that episodic approach, but giving them the library, so if somebody needs something else, they can go back and find it as well on their timeline.
Oh wow. I think you're right though. I think that's good. The idea that it's all out there, you can go find it. It's still accessible. Obviously, what you're saying, whatever you're saying today, is probably what's happening now. I assume.
Yes.
Like what we're seeing a trend in this month is X.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
didn't. I remember I worked for Carvana once for a
Oh
year or
yeah.
so, and they sent us fake spam attempts. They sent emails, and if you clicked on it, they emailed your whole office to be like, one of you clicked on this and explain, go through, and it would have a little detailed thing on how to be careful and watch out. And I always remembered thinking that was kind of good because it made shame an element.
It's true. I'll tell you this though. That's how we did it. I think the early days of cybersecurity awareness training was shame based. It was very sort of negative, like don't do this, or um, but again, generationally, it's not motivating a lot of younger employees, and so now you've got to do it much more proactively and positive. Like, look what you've learned, and look at the progress you've made in your
Yeah,
learning and behavior, and you've actually helped lower the risk for the company. So it's way more positive, but it's because we're doing it on a more regular basis,
yeah,
that we can keep pumping in that positive information along the way.
that's great. Well, Dr. McAlmont, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a really good chat. It's been interesting.
Hey, Corey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Love talking about it, and we want to keep it top of mind for everybody out there, whether you're a small business, large business, or a family at home. Just be aware.
Right on. How do they find out more about NINJIO?
NINJIO.com. You can go right to NINJIO and find out about our company, how to engage with us, and just a little bit about where we've come and where we're going.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you here. It's been a pleasure to visit with Dr. McAlmont, and we'll be back next week with something interesting. You can find this podcast and all of our others everywhere you can find podcasts. Just go chase it down, check it out, and we'll see you back here next time. Thanks for watching.